Pretty much, it's all blues today. That's good, bluesing up even more.
So I want to take a look at something which I was dreaming about. I dream about Wing Chun. I know that's weird. I was actually dreaming about this guy. He had clothes on though. I promise. Most of the time.
I didn't need to ask that.
So anyway, it's actually something I've noticed, and it goes back to a way that
Chun has been taught traditionally, where teachers would say, okay, in order to get the feeling of structure, you say shoulder turns to go to the elbow, elbow turns to go to the wrist. And you think, okay, that's actually pretty cool. Because when Kenton, for example, does like a punch, he turns his shoulder, it goes to his elbow, he opens his elbow, goes to his wrist, and you get a strong structural line, right? So we go, oh, that makes sense. That's a good idea. But what I realized actually in my dream, which was cool, was that there is a flaw to that in that you tend to end up pushing along the structural line, or maybe even just directionally supported along the structural line. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're pushing as well. It just means that the movement is going through the bone structure. And you've got to remember that structure is one stepping stone. So we want to go ultimately to the state, to where my master, our grandmaster was, right? To use the mind, the Nim Tao, and the energy. But the structure, at first, is the gateway, because you're like, oh, I use my structure instead of muscle, but then it becomes the blockage point, because you need to transcend the structure to go into state. Does that make sense? So it's like, a similar analogy is like in Dr. Hawkins' teachings, where he talks about how you use the mind to pull yourself out of force, because you start to use your reason and take responsibility for your emotions, and you stop blaming others, right? So you start to become emotionally responsible. So you make that paradigm shift. But then the mind becomes the blockage if you want to step into the loving frequency, into the non-linear domain. So you see how the tool which got you to one point can be the blockage at a later point. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, cool. So we think, okay, Kenton thinks, I nearly said Carlson. Kenton thinks, okay, I go from my shoulder to my elbow to wrist, he moves slowly, and then as I put pressure on, there feels like a strong structural line there. And that's a good thing, right? So as he continues forward towards me, he can generate a certain amount of power. But the problem with that is that, and this is actually something my master was teaching, is if Kenton's just going shoulder to elbow, elbow to wrist, and he's coming towards me slowly just so we can demonstrate, and then I start to go left to right, see how it's quite easy to take that power off the line it's traveling, because it's strong in that one line. But what my master was trying to get us to do is to be strong in every direction. And then the question becomes, okay, how do we get strength in every direction? How do we get power in every direction? And that comes to a quality of the state, which he would call Dan Hoi, which means to expand. Did I say it correctly?
Dan Hoi, yep.
Yeah, alrighty. I'm basically Chinese now, right? So to expand. And it wasn't just the expansion of the joints, it was the expansion of everything. So he'd walk around going like this. So if you watch any of his old videos, you see him walk around going, just like expanding his whole self constantly. So it wasn't just a small expansion in the joints, it was an overall expansion of himself, right? So, further to that, so for example, if we just go with that same example that he was doing, so you'd be standing there practicing a movement, let's just say it's this punch, right? And he'd put pressure on you, and then you'd come through and go, okay, you'd have strength there, but then he'd come in and test you this way, and test you this way, to show that, okay, this isn't the level I want you at, we want it to be powerful in every direction. So then how does Kenton do that? So rather than thinking shoulder to elbow, elbow to wrist, to that shoulder to elbow, elbow to wrist idea, Kenton centers in his tension first. So we want to actually take ourselves out of structure. So Kenton gets into his good, happy place, yeah? That sounds kind of weird, right? But you need to get into an upright, good feeling quality. So Kenton, in whatever way, shape or form, softly draws up and gets a sense of risenness in his spine. As he keeps a sense of uprightness, he wants to stand nice and tall and upright, yeah? And then he has to sense his space on the spot. So he's not thinking, okay, my structure comes this way then this way, so if I'm turning around, he just senses it as it is, right? And as he senses it as it is, he has the intention of expansion from the center. So this is what we're doing in state training. So if you could face that way for a second. You know how we go, okay, maybe we can rest there for now. So you know how we go sense the center, rise up through the center, good feeling quality, right? And then we expand the sensing, and then we expand the light from the center to encourage the energy from the center and the intention to fill the whole physical and energetic system. So the intention body fills the etheric body. Yeah? So your intention, highest intention, so happy Kenton quality, spreads into his physical and energetic system. That's what starts off the expansion. The expansion comes from the mind through the center into the body. Because you can't just physically expand your body. That's not going to happen. It has to happen from the mind level. Does that make sense? You follow me? Cool. Now, Kenton can do this, and that's why I was dreaming about him. Because we'll be rolling and I'll feel like a sense of expansion, great, and then I feel it would go to that structural, but like, okay, how come he's not staying in that? Which is why it was kind of plaguing me. I'm lying there at night trying to sleep, like, Kenton, So he centers it in intention. And already now, I feel like he's not doing the shoulder elbow, you feel that? He's not doing shoulder elbow wrist down. And from the center, he expands through his whole system. It's everything expand. Now, as he goes to everything expand in every direction. And now if I put pressure this way, I feel how there's more robustness, yeah? Keep it, yeah, here. Yeah, it's better. If you go shoulder, elbow, wrist again, so they do the structure on purpose, and watch little movements, yeah, it starts to tighten, you feel that? Whereas if you go spine nice and tall, sense of expansion from the whole center, but that same pressure doesn't tighten you now, you feel that? Yeah, so now he's not tightening, because he's being supported in every direction, from the mind to the energy to the body, as opposed to a structural direction, which is what my dream was saying. In my dream, it was saying he's using structural direction, not structural expansion. Yeah, I think about Wing Chun way too much. So if Kenton thinks my expanded in my center, I expand through the whole body. Yeah, now I feel already that's much more expansive. And as he goes to do the movement now, maintain that, it feels more powerful too. So what are we going to do for our exercise today? I want you to do, and you've got to remember that shoulder, elbow, wrist isn't wrong. It's just a level. It's like when you're in year 5 at school. It's not wrong to be in year 5, but you go to year 6, right? And then you don't go back to year 5 unless you're shit, right? I mean, who calls primary school kids shit? You guys are mean. Anyway, so do the structural movement. Taigong, spine, and structure's not wrong. It's powerful, right? Kenton goes spine tall, he uses his structure, he does his structural movement, right? He does his structure and feels how it feels. But then he wants to do the same thing now with state. He has nice expanded feeling. Kenton already feels lighter to me. How do you feel?
Yeah, it's fine.
Exactly. And from that condition, he uses his intention, meaning he places his center to my center and uses that as the go. Get it? Yeah, and that feels like 3 times as powerful. So this is what I want you guys to fuck with, yeah? I want you to go, okay, structure with whatever movement. Maybe we'll stick to punches for now so we have a level playing field, and then center in my intention, let that feeling expand through my body, which is what you do every time we do the state, right? Then the intention leads the energy, leads the body. So you place your intention there and you say go. So my master used to always say, I just think to put my hand there. Literally, that was it. Right? So how do you use the Nim Tao? I just think, put my hand there. That was literally his direction. You can watch any of his videos. You guys, who's seen it? Anyone? Yeah. He just says, I just think to put my hand there. I'm not joking. Literally, that was his directive to us. So that's what I'd like you to play with. Consciously using structure. So I think, okay, sense my structure. I go Taigong, sense my structure, and then I move my structural. Yeah? I feel, and as I do structure, I feel, okay, it's connecting to the floor, yeah? Which means, the problem with the limitation of structure is that it can be directional, but also it doesn't generate as much explosive power. It's structural power. Meaning if I'm using structural power, I can come through and I can touch him, but I can't really explode through the contact. I have to kind of hold through it. Whereas if you go from state, I'm no longer thinking structure. I think my spine expands, I get a good feeling quality, and from here, it feels quite easy, and that allows you to then get that explosion, so you can actually place power into the target. Make sense? All right, any questions? That's how we go. 1, 2. That'd be a good idea, right? Break it in, please. Okay, so now let's just bring it into Luxao. So we're in Luxao shapes, because ideally you want to be able to bring it into your Luxao, right? So actually this is where the dream was. I was Luxaoing with Kenton, and I was just saying, how do we make the state come out of your body? We're talking about, and then that cracked. But anyway, so now I want you to play with it here. So we'll do it from this position here, because this is actually the position it was in the dream, yeah? It was that. It's getting weirded out now. Yes. maybe we'll go that side so near the camera. So here, structurally, Kenton has a good habit of supporting the structure here. So as pressure's applied to that structure, there's a good structural support, right? But the problem is that if he goes to extend through with that structure, it's not going to keep going. Yeah, it's not going to see how it doesn't really deliver that landing explosive power, right? It's more of a touch, like it's reached through, but that wouldn't break something, right? We want it to break them, and you can probably feel it now that there's still that structuralness, right? Feel that, yeah? So from this position now, yeah, it's probably. No, let's do it with both hands, fuck it. All right, so on purpose, I want you to play around with kind of structure in the context of, okay, shoulder to elbow, elbow to wrist, and get the feeling of that as he reaches through to like punch my chest, right? And that's fine, just get a couple of punches on, and you know, if you don't mind, let him punch you, and you should let people punch you, it's a martial art. Yeah. If you don't want to get punched, go ballet down the road. Now, the other thing is that now, so he's done it a couple of times with that structural idea, right? Now from here, he wants to apply exactly what we just did. So as the partner, just apply a level of pressure towards their center that allows them to adjust. I'm not going to just go and lean on him as hard as I can, because he won't be able to adjust under that type of pressure. So I give him just enough pressure to adjust, and then you want to go back to the exact same thing we were just doing before. Okay, center in my intention. From the intention field center, he expands through into the arms. He wants to let everything open up into the whole space of his fingers and his toes, so he gets that sense of openness. Yep. Yeah. That was already a lot better. And now if he goes to strike, I can feel, you see the difference there? That there was actual power in that, which is what we want. We want to be able to hit with power, right? I mean, if you're just reaching through with a structural push, for a lack of a better word, you're just placing your hand, but you're not placing your power. But you could see the difference in that. And what Kenton will feel, see how it starts off with the structural push, you feel that? Yeah. His habit is to kind of support structurally, which is fine, that's going to give support, but the new habit should be to support spatially. He senses the intention, and the intention-filled center becomes the support for the structure. Another way to think about it is like an energetic structure. Yeah, because my master would say, the Nimtao leads the chi. And then we train our structure for 20 years and not think in terms of mind and energy. Do you see what I'm getting at? It's a bit silly, right? So we know that we're trying to use our Nimtao and Chi, so let's do that. He senses an intention, he gets a good feeling in his center, and then he senses from the center out through to his hands and feet, sensing everything. Already I feel it's depleting, the force from his system, but the shoulders and hips can drop. Yeah, there we go. Now if he goes to hit me, that's gonna, yeah. See the difference? So fuck with that, yeah. And what you can do if you're happy with, okay, this is getting a good feeling, you can then even just roll more and just start exploding punches through, so you can just start hitting through. Yeah, and just keep hitting through, and getting a feeling, yeah. And then you can also go back, so then you can go back to doing it structurally, kind of pushing structure, and feel how that feels. Like structural, yeah, and then feel the difference in the impact on the person, to kick it structurally, and then he wants to go spine filled with intention, get that sense of spatial support, and then drop the bombs through as well. Big difference. Big fucking difference. And this is what I want everyone to do. I don't want to see you guys pushing with structure on, yes, it looks okay from the outside, but if there's no power in it, it's shit. And I don't want any shit Wing Chun in here. Alrighty, so you get the idea. It's the exercise we just did. There's two stages to it. There's number one, okay, from the Bong Sao, Fuk Sao, low Fuk Sao position, getting into that sense of intention-filled structure or intention-filled body. You must come from intention first. From that sense of spatial freedom, reaching through, yeah, compared to structure. And then once you're comfortable with that, you can roll and play around with the two different types as well. Does that make sense? 1, 2. Low!